The world is changing. Imagine waking up one morning to a world where every aspect of your life is controlled. Not just the government, but a global authority, one so powerful that it decides where you can live, how you can buy and sell, and even what you are allowed to believe. A world where cash is obsolete and every transaction is tracked. A world where your opinions are monitored, and stepping out of line means losing access to your own money, your home, your freedom. A world where technology doesn't serve you, it controls you. Now, you might think, that sounds like a dystopian sci-fi movie. But what if I told you this isn't fiction? For centuries, people have speculated about a one-world government, a system designed to unify nations under a single rule. Some call it the New World Order, others dismiss it as a conspiracy theory. But what if it's something far more ancient? What if it was foretold thousands of years ago? The Bible speaks of a final world empire, a kingdom of 10 nations, led by a single, all-powerful ruler. The book of Daniel, written over 2,500 years ago, describes a terrifying vision, a final kingdom, symbolized by 10 horns, rising to power before being overtaken by a single figure, the Antichrist. Fast forward to the book of Revelation, and we see the same warning. The 10 horns you saw are 10 kings who have not yet received a kingdom, but who for 1 hour will receive authority as kings along with the beast. Revelation 17 verse 12, 10 kings, 10 leaders, 10 powerful territories. And according to many biblical scholars, this global system is already forming. The world is shifting, nations are aligning, economies are merging, crises are pushing us toward a single, centralized power. And here's the real question. What if the final piece, the 10th region, is being set in place right now? What if we are living in the final era before this empire takes full control? And more importantly, what happens when the door finally closes? Is this just another wild theory? Or are we about to witness biblical prophecy unfold before our eyes? Stay with me, because what you're about to discover may change the way you see the world forever. Daniel's prophecy, a vision of the future. To understand what is happening in the world today, we need to go back, way back. More than 2,500 years ago, the mighty Babylonian Empire ruled the ancient world. And in the heart of this empire lived a man named Daniel. He was taken captive from Jerusalem as a teenager and brought to Babylon. But because of his extraordinary wisdom and prophetic visions, he rose to the highest ranks, serving under 4 different kings. And then one night, Daniel had a dream that shook him to his core. In this dream, he saw 4 great beasts rising from a raging sea. Each of them symbolized an empire that would one day rule the earth. The first was like a lion with eagle's wings. The second looked like a bear, raised on one side, with 3 ribs in its mouth. The third was like a leopard with 4 heads and 4 wings. But the 4th beast, this one was different, terrifying, powerful, with iron teeth that crushed everything in its path. And most importantly, it had 10 horns. Daniel watched as a small horn emerged among the 10, uprooting 3 of them. This small horn had eyes like a man and spoke arrogant, blasphemous words. And then it was given power over the entire earth. Does this sound familiar? This is not just ancient mythology. This is a prophecy about the future, a future that may be unfolding right now. The 10 horns, the final empire. Fast forward to the book of Revelation, and we see the same vision repeated. In chapter 17, verse 12, it says, "The 10 horns you saw are 10 kings who have not yet received a kingdom, but who for 1 hour will receive authority as kings along with the beast." 10 kings, 10 rulers, 10 powerful regions of the world. And here is the most critical part. They have one purpose and will give their power and authority to the beast. These 10 kings do not rule independently. They surrender their power to one world leader, a single dictator, a man who will appear as a savior, promising peace and security, but will ultimately bring destruction. And here's where things get disturbing. Many political and economic think tanks have already suggested dividing the world into 10 regions. The United Nations has proposed a 10-region global structure. The Club of Rome, an elite organization, has published a world map divided into 10 economic zones. Even the European Union, which started as a trade agreement, has transformed into a political empire, one that eerily resembles the prophecy. Are these just coincidences? Or is the framework for Daniel's vision already being put into place? How history confirms prophecy, skeptics might say, this is all just symbolic. But here's the problem with that theory. History has proven Daniel right, over and over again. Let's examine the facts. The lion with eagle's wings? That was the Babylonian Empire, ruled by King Nebuchadnezzar, mighty and dominant, but eventually humbled. The bear with 3 ribs? That was the Persian Empire, which conquered 3 great kingdoms, Babylon, Lydia, and Egypt. The leopard with 4 heads? That was the Greek Empire under Alexander the Great, which split into 4 territories after his death. Each prophecy was fulfilled with perfect accuracy. But what about the 4th beast? What about the 10 horns? What about the small horn that rises up and takes control? This part has not happened yet. But if Daniel was 100% accurate about the first 3 empires, shouldn't we take the final part seriously? The big question, where are we now? If Daniel's prophecies have been fulfilled time and time again, doesn't that mean the final part is inevitable? We see the world moving toward unification. Borders are dissolving. Economies are merging. People are accepting global control as a necessity. And all of this is leading toward 10 regions, toward the final empire. We are already living in a world that is ready to accept a global leader. And if this truly is prophecy unfolding, then here's the real question. What happens next? Stay with me, because in the next section, we will uncover how the global system is being built right now, and why it could be the final sign before the end of days. The global order. What is happening right now? For centuries, the idea of a one-world government seemed impossible. Nations were divided by culture, language, and ideology. Wars were fought over borders, religion, and political systems. But today, something is changing. Borders are fading. Economies are merging. Nations are no longer independent. They are interconnected. And every crisis brings us one step closer to a unified global system. But here's the question. Are we seeing the rise of the final world empire? And more importantly, is it happening faster than we realize? The new empires. Are they already here? Throughout history, empires have risen and fallen. Babylon, Persia, Greece, Rome. Each of them controlled vast territories, ruling with absolute power. But for the past 2,000 years, no single empire has ruled the entire world. Until now, in the past few decades, we have witnessed the birth of global alliances that function like modern-day empires. The European Union started as an economic treaty, but has transformed into a political superpower, controlling laws, currency, and even military policies across 27 nations. NATO, originally a military alliance, has expanded its influence, integrating member nations into a unified defense system. The United Nations has grown into a powerful global entity, influencing world policies, economics, and even social issues. These organizations have one thing in common. They demand cooperation at the cost of national independence. Nations are no longer free to make their own decisions. Instead, they must comply with international laws, economic sanctions, and global policies. It is a new kind of empire, one that doesn't conquer with swords, but with trade agreements, financial dependencies, and political pressure. And here's where it gets even more concerning. Some of these global organizations have already proposed dividing the world into 10 regions, exactly as described in Daniel's prophecy. Coincidence? Or the foundation of the final kingdom? Crisis. The tool for global unification. Look back at history. Every major step toward global governance has been driven by crisis. After World War I, world leaders created the League of Nations, the first attempt at a global government. After World War II, the United Nations was established, giving world powers more authority than ever before. After the Cold War, global alliances like NATO and the European Union expanded, bringing nations under centralized control. But what about today? What crisis will push the world into its final stage of unification? Think about it, a global financial collapse, forcing nations to adopt a single economic system. A cyber attack, disrupting economies, leading to digital surveillance and control. A pandemic, justifying new levels of international authority. A climate emergency, paving the way for a one-world governance to save the planet. Every crisis demands a solution, and those solutions always require nations to give up more of their independence. We have already seen it happen. During recent global emergencies, governments shut down businesses, restricted travel, and imposed digital tracking systems, all in the name of safety. And the people accepted it, because when people are afraid, they will surrender anything for the illusion of security. But what happens when the next crisis comes? And what happens when a global leader steps forward with the perfect solution? The secret meetings. Who really pulls the strings? Most people believe that their elected leaders are the ones making decisions. But what if the real power isn't what we see in public? What if the biggest decisions are made behind closed doors? Consider this. Every year, the world's most powerful people gather at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, an exclusive event where billionaires, politicians, and corporate executives discuss the future of the world. The Bilderberg Group, an elite and secretive meeting of world leaders, has existed since the mid-20th century, shaping global policies without public oversight. The G20 summit brings together the world's richest nations, discussing strategies that will impact the entire planet. These meetings are not conspiracies. They are real. They happen every year, and they are shaping the global order. And here is the most disturbing part. Many of the most powerful global leaders openly support the idea of a unified world government. They speak about the need for a great reset, a complete restructuring of economies, governance, and even personal freedoms. Their goal? To create a single, centralized system where global leaders control everything. We need a global government to solve global problems. This is what they say. And when the time is right, when the world is in chaos, when people are desperate, they will offer the solution. A new order, a final empire, a kingdom that controls the economy, military, and society. And once it is in place, there will be no turning back. Are we on the edge of a global takeover? Let's connect the dots. Global organizations are gaining more power. National independence is disappearing. Every crisis pushes us closer to global control. And world leaders are actively promoting a single, unified system. If this continues, what happens when the world is finally divided into 10 regions? And what happens when those 10 leaders give their power to one man? The Bible has already told us. They have one purpose and will give their power and authority to the beast. The system is already forming. The stage is already set. And soon, the world will have to choose. Will we accept this new empire? Or will we recognize the true nature of what is coming? Stay with me, because in the next section, we will expose the technology that will give this final empire absolute control, and why it may already be in your hands. The mystery of the 10th region. For years, analysts and scholars have speculated about the idea of a 10-region global system. But why 10? Why not 5 or 20, or even one unified world government? Why does both the Book of Daniel and the Book of Revelation specifically describe a world divided into 10 kingdoms before the rise of the final ruler? The answer may be hidden in plain sight, because right now, behind closed doors, powerful forces are shaping a future where the world is no longer divided by countries, but by regions of control. And here's the real question. What is the final piece? What is the 10th region? Why 10 regions? A pattern through history. If we look back at history, we can see a clear pattern. Many of the most powerful empires in history divided their territories into 10 administrative regions before they collapsed or transformed into something new. The Roman Empire, which is often connected to end times prophecy, was divided into 10 provinces in its later years. The Holy Roman Empire, which lasted for more than 1,000 years, was governed by 10 powerful electors who chose the emperor. Even the British Empire, at its peak, had 10 major administrative divisions spanning the world. And now, in the modern era, we are seeing something eerily similar. Powerful global organizations have already outlined a 10-region world system. The United Nations proposed a 10-region model for economic and political stability. The Club of Rome, an elite think tank, published a map dividing the world into 10 global zones to create a more manageable system of governance. The World Economic Forum has discussed the need for a regionalized world, moving away from national sovereignty toward a larger, interconnected structure. This isn't a theory. This is documented strategy. The blueprint for the final empire is already being drafted. But there's still one missing piece. One region that hasn't fully formed. One final piece of the puzzle that will complete the system. Could we be watching the formation of the 10th region right now? How the world may be divided in the future if the world is to be divided into 10 regions. How will it happen? What nations will be grouped together? Here are some possible scenarios based on existing global trends. Scenario 1. Economic division. The world is already divided by economic powerhouses. We could see a system where the 10 regions are based on global financial influence. North America, United States, Canada, Mexico, South America, Brazil, Argentina, Chile, European Union, Germany, France, Spain, Russia and Eastern Europe, China, and East Asia, India, and South Asia, Middle East, and North Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa, Australia, and the Pacific. A new global authority, this last region. The 10th region would be a governing body above all nations, enforcing policies for the rest of the world. Sound far-fetched? The United Nations, World Economic Forum, and International Monetary Fund are already being positioned as global regulators, capable of influencing laws, economies, and even military actions across sovereign nations. Is this the beginning of the 10th region? Scenario 2. Political and military alliances. Another way the world could be divided is through military alliances. We already have massive global powers like NATO in the West, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, led by China, and Russia, the African Union, forming a unified defense strategy, the Arab League, growing in military influence. What if these alliances eventually merge into 10 superpowers, each controlling vast regions of the world? And more importantly, who will rule over them? Scenario 3. Crisis-forced unification. There is one more possibility. What if the world is forced into a 10-region system by a massive global crisis? Think about it, a total financial collapse, forcing nations to reorganize under global economic leadership. A world war where nations merge for survival. A cyber attack so massive that entire governments collapse, and new leadership is required to restore order. A climate catastrophe, justifying a single world government to save humanity. History has already shown us that in times of crisis, people will accept any system that offers security. And when the world is in chaos, a leader will emerge, offering a solution that seems logical, even necessary. And in exchange for peace and stability, nations will surrender their independence. This would complete the prophecy. 10 regions, one ruler, the final empire. What will be the final piece? The first 9 regions of this system are already being formed. The European Union is established. The United States, Canada, and Mexico are being economically integrated. China, Russia, and India are aligning their global influence. The Middle East and Africa are developing regional power structures. But what about the 10th region? What missing piece will complete the system? Some scholars believe it will be a global governing authority, an entity above all nations, controlling the economy, military, and digital systems of the world. And here's the terrifying part. The technology to make this happen already exists. Digital currencies, biometric surveillance, artificial intelligence, tools that could give absolute control to a global leader. Which leads us to the next question. Is technology the final step toward the rise of the Antichrist? Stay with me, because in the next section, we will uncover how digital systems, artificial intelligence, and cashless economies are paving the way for absolute control over the world. Technology and control. The final piece for centuries. Controlling an entire population was nearly impossible. Empires could rule with armies, laws, and fear, but they could never track every person, every transaction, every movement. But today, that has changed. Technology has given governments and corporations unprecedented power. Power to monitor, influence, and even control entire societies with the push of a button. And here's the terrifying truth. The systems needed for global control are already in place. We are witnessing the final steps toward a world where no one can buy or sell without approval from a centralized authority. A world where digital currencies, artificial intelligence, and surveillance systems work together to create the perfect global dictatorship. A world where the prophecy of Revelation becomes reality. A cashless world. The rise of digital currency for most of history. Money meant freedom. If you had cash in your pocket, no one could track how you spent it. You had privacy, control, and independence. But now, cash is disappearing. Governments and financial institutions are pushing for a cashless society. One where every transaction is digital, every payment is recorded, and every financial decision is monitored. Central banks across the world are developing central bank digital currencies, also known as CBDCs. Unlike cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, where transactions are decentralized, CBDCs will be fully controlled by governments. And this is where it gets dangerous. With a digital currency controlled by central banks, governments could track every transaction you make, block payments to businesses or individuals they don't approve of, freeze your account if you express opinions that go against their policies. And if a global government takes control of this system, it would mean total financial domination. Revelation chapter 13, verse 17 warns, "No one will be able to buy or sell unless they have the mark of the beast." Could it be that CBDCs are the first step toward this prophecy being fulfilled? And if so, what happens when this system is connected to artificial intelligence? Artificial intelligence. The new global enforcer for years, artificial intelligence was just an idea, a futuristic concept that belonged in science fiction movies. But today, AI is everywhere. It is in our phones, our workplaces, our homes. It predicts our behavior, influences our decisions, and even controls the flow of information. But here's the real danger. Governments and corporations are already using AI to monitor citizens. China's social credit system tracks citizens' behaviors, rewarding those who comply and punishing those who don't. Facial recognition cameras are being installed worldwide, scanning millions of faces every day. AI-powered surveillance systems can detect suspicious activity and report it instantly. Now imagine this, a global AI network connected to a central bank digital currency. It would have the power to approve or deny transactions based on your behavior. Restrict travel if you don't comply with global policies. Erase your financial identity if you resist the system. This isn't just a theory. In 2023, the European Union passed the AI Act, a law that paves the way for AI-driven government monitoring. In the United States, companies are using AI algorithms to track purchases, detect suspicious activity, and even predict crimes before they happen. And in China, the government is already testing a fully AI-controlled economy. The technology is here, and if it falls into the wrong hands, it could become the ultimate tool of oppression. The biometric connection, the final form of control for a global leader to truly control society. There must be a way to link every person to the system. The answer? Biometric identification. Many governments are already implementing facial recognition payments, where you pay with your face instead of cash or a card. Palm scanning technology, already being used by major corporations. Microchip implants, which store medical, financial, and personal data inside your body. At first, these technologies are marketed as convenient, fast, and secure. But what happens when they become mandatory? What happens when the only way to access your money, healthcare, and rights is through a digital ID connected to a global database. This brings us to Revelation chapter 13, verse 16. He also forced all people, great and small, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hand or on their forehead. A global financial system, artificial intelligence enforcement, biometric identification. Are we seeing the foundation for the mark of the beast being built right now? The perfect system for the Antichrist. Let's connect the dots. Cash is disappearing, being replaced with digital currency. Artificial intelligence is being trained to monitor and enforce global policies. Biometric identification is linking individuals to centralized control systems. What happens when a global crisis forces the world into a 10-region system? What happens when a powerful world leader steps forward, offering solutions that seem logical and necessary? The technology is ready. All that's missing is the right moment. And when that moment comes, when the final empire is in place, the world will face a choice. Will we accept this system in exchange for security? Or will we recognize the true nature of what is coming? In the next section, we will explore how global leaders are preparing for the arrival of a new world order, and why the next event could change everything. The big question: what should we do? At this point, you might be asking yourself, should I be afraid? The world is changing faster than ever. Governments are consolidating power. Technology is being used to track and control societies. The very foundations of privacy and freedom are disappearing. It's easy to feel overwhelmed, even hopeless. But here's the truth: fear is not the answer. Because the Bible doesn't tell us these things to frighten us. It tells us so that we can be prepared. It tells us that we have hope. And it tells us that no matter what happens, God is still in control. So, what should we do? Should we sit back and watch as prophecy unfolds? Or is there something greater that we are called to do? The warning: why we must pay attention. Some people choose to ignore these prophecies. They say, these things have always been happening. But here's the problem: the world has never been like this before. Never before has there been a serious movement toward a one-world government. Never before has there been a technology capable of controlling the entire population. Never before have we seen the global economy move toward a single digital currency. Never before has artificial intelligence had the power to monitor and influence the entire world. This is not just another cycle in history. This is something bigger. The Bible tells us that in the last days, the world will become one system, ruled by one leader, powered by one economy, and enforced by one mark. And right now, the foundation for this system is being built. So the question isn't if it will happen. The question is, how will we respond? Preparation. How TO stands strong in uncertain times. The Bible gives clear instructions on how to prepare for what is coming. And the first step is not fear, but faith. Here are 3 critical things we must do. 1. Seek the truth. The world is filled with lies and deception. Governments, media, and global organizations will try to convince people that these changes are good, necessary, and even inevitable. But we must not be deceived. Jesus warned us in Matthew chapter 24, verse 4. Watch out that no one deceives you. That means we must be awake, aware, and discerning. We cannot blindly follow the system just because it promises peace and security. Because history has proven one thing: when people give up freedom for security, they always lose both. And in the end, the only true security is in God. 2. Strengthen your faith. The days ahead will not be easy. Revelation warns that those who refuse the mark of the beast will be persecuted. But here's what we need to remember: God always protects his people. In Psalm 91, verse 2, it says, I will say of the Lord, he is my refuge and my fortress, my God in whom I trust. No matter what happens, whether the world falls into chaos, whether governments take control, whether technology is used for oppression, God is still greater than any empire. And he has promised that, in the end, his kingdom will reign forever. 3. Build a community of believers. There is power in unity. When hard times come, we cannot stand alone. This is why the Bible repeatedly tells us to gather together, support one another, and encourage one another. Hebrews chapter 10, verse 25 says, "Do not give up meeting together, as some are in the habit of doing, but encourage one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching." A strong community of faith will be essential in the coming years. Because as governments take more control, as technology limits personal freedom, as financial systems become centralized, the church will become the last refuge for truth, strength, and hope. The final hope. God's kingdom is coming, yes. The world is changing. Yes, a final empire will rise. Yes, technology is leading toward global control. But here is the most important truth. This kingdom will not last. The Bible tells us that when the final empire takes power, it will seem unstoppable. But just when it appears to have full control, it will collapse. In Daniel chapter 2, verse 34, we read, "While you were watching, a rock was cut out, but not by human hands. It struck the statue on its feet of iron and clay and smashed them." This rock is God's kingdom, a kingdom that will destroy every human empire and will last forever. That is the hope we hold on to. That is why we do not fear. Because no matter how powerful the final empire seems, no matter how much control it takes, no matter how many people surrender to it, it will fall before the King of Kings, and his kingdom will reign forever. The time to choose is now, so here is the final question. When the world changes, when governments demand loyalty, when financial systems become controlled, when technology forces compliance, where will you stand? Will you trust the system? Or will you put your faith in something greater? Right now, we still have a choice. Right now, we still have time to prepare. Right now, we can choose to stand firm in faith, knowing that no matter what happens, God's kingdom is coming, and it is a kingdom that will never be destroyed. If this message has opened your eyes, if you see the signs unfolding before us, then help spread the truth. Like this video, share it, and make sure you subscribe to the channel, because the world needs to wake up. More people need to understand what is coming, and together, we can stand strong in faith, prepared for whatever lies ahead. So take a moment right now, hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Because what's coming next? You won't want to miss it.